Have you ever sat down to work, only to find yourself scrolling mindlessly through your phone minutes later? Or started a conversation with someone, only to realize halfway through that your thoughts were already drifting to the next task, the next email, the next distraction? We live in a world that never stops pulling at our attention. Notifications buzz, screens flicker, and the constant hum of busyness makes it feel impossible to just be here, fully present in this moment. But what if I told you there's an ancient philosophy, tested by time and practiced by some of history's greatest minds, that holds the key to cutting through the noise? Stoicism, a school of thought that flourished over 2,000 years ago, offers surprisingly practical tools to reclaim your focus and master the art of presence. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That power is what we're here to explore today. Think about the last time you felt truly focused, completely absorbed in what you were doing. Maybe it was a conversation where you listened without thinking of your reply, or a task where time seemed to dissolve because you were so immersed in it. That state isn't just rare, it's becoming endangered. Our brains are being rewired by endless distractions, and the cost is more than just productivity. It's the ability to fully experience our own lives. But here's the good news: Stoicism doesn't just diagnose the problem, it gives us a way out. This isn't about retreating from the modern world or rejecting technology. It's about building mental resilience, training your attention like a muscle, and learning to choose where your focus goes, moment by moment. The Stoics called this discipline prosoche, the practice of unwavering attention. And in this video, we'll dive into exactly how you can apply their timeless techniques to the chaos of everyday life. So why does this matter now more than ever? Because presence isn't just a luxury, it's the foundation of meaningful work, deeper relationships, and even personal peace. When we're scattered, we miss the richness of the present, trading it for a fractured sense of half-lived moments. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, and their wisdom feels almost prophetic today. Over the next minutes, we'll explore how to silence the mental chatter, resist the pull of distraction, and anchor yourself in the here and now. You'll walk away with actionable strategies drawn directly from Stoic philosophy to cultivate focus in a world that's designed to break it. This isn't about quick fixes or empty productivity hacks, it's about reclaiming something far more valuable: your attention, your time, and ultimately, your life. Let's begin. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded train station, voices shouting, screens flashing, announcements blaring from every direction. That's what our minds feel like most days. The average person checks their phone over 150 times daily, and the constant ping of notifications has trained us to live in a state of fractured attention. We skim articles instead of reading them, multitask instead of concentrating, and mistake busyness for productivity. But here's the paradox: the more we try to do at once, the less we actually accomplish. Seneca saw this coming 2,000 years ago when he warned, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." He wasn't talking about smartphones, of course, but about the restless mind that never settles in one place long enough to truly engage. Modern distraction isn't just about external noise, it's about how that noise reshapes our inner world. Every time we switch tasks, our brain burns energy recalibrating, leaving us mentally exhausted yet strangely unfulfilled. Studies show it takes nearly 25 minutes to refocus after an interruption. Think about that. If you're juggling emails, messages, and work tasks all day, you're essentially living in a state of perpetual recovery. And the cost: shallow thinking, strained relationships, and a creeping sense that life is slipping by unnoticed. The Stoics called this prolepsis, the habit of always leaning into the next thing, never fully inhabiting the present. Now contrast that with the Stoic ideal of focus. While we chase endless stimulation, they practiced the art of single-pointed attention. Marcus Aurelius would begin his mornings by mentally preparing for the day ahead, not with a to-do list but with a clear intention. I will meet meddling people, ungrateful people, arrogant people, but I will see them for what they are without being disturbed. That's the heart of Stoic focus, recognizing distractions without letting them hijack your mind. It's not about eliminating the chaos around you. It's about creating stillness within you. So here's a question to sit with. When was the last time you did one thing, just one thing, with your full attention? No background podcast, no quick scroll between tasks, no half listening while planning your reply. If that feels difficult, you're not alone, but the stakes are higher than we realize. Every time we split our attention, we're not just dividing our focus, we're diluting our experiences. The Stoics believed that presence was the foundation of wisdom, and in a world that's constantly pulling us away from ourselves, reclaiming that focus isn't just practical, it's revolutionary. The Stoics had a word for the kind of focused attention that cuts through distraction: prosoche. It wasn't just about noticing the world around you, it was about actively directing your awareness, moment by moment, like a gatekeeper carefully choosing what enters the mind. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it bluntly: the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, distractions don't have to derail you. They can actually train you to focus deeper if you approach them with intention. Picture this: you're walking down a busy street, surrounded by noise and movement. Most of us would instinctively tune it out or reach for our phones to escape the sensory overload. But the Stoics would suggest something radically different: to pause and observe it all without resistance. Not to judge the honking cars as annoying or the chatter as trivial, but to simply notice them like waves rising and falling in the ocean. This isn't passive acceptance, it's active engagement with reality as it is. Epictetus taught his students to guard their minds like a fortress, not by shutting the gates entirely, but by choosing which thoughts and impressions to let in. He called this the discipline of assent, the practice of questioning every distraction before allowing it to occupy your attention. Here's how you can practice this today. Next time you find yourself in a crowded space or amidst chaos, stop for just 30 seconds. Notice 5 things around you: the texture of a wall, the rhythm of footsteps, the play of light and shadow. Don't label them good or bad, just observe. This simple exercise mirrors modern mindfulness techniques, but with a crucial Stoic twist. It's not about emptying the mind, but about strengthening its ability to choose where to focus. While mindfulness often emphasizes detachment, Stoic prosoche is about purposeful engagement. You're not stepping back from the world, you're stepping into it with clarity. What makes this approach so powerful is its realism. The Stoics never promised a life free from distraction. They offered tools to navigate it wisely. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire in constant turmoil, yet his journal reveals a man who cultivated inner stillness amid external storms. He wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. That's the heart of Stoic mindfulness, recognizing that while you can't always control your environment, you can always control where you place your attention. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics knew centuries ago. Focus is a skill, not a fixed trait. Every time you pause to redirect your attention, whether from a buzzing phone or a wandering thought, you're literally rewiring your brain. But here's where Stoicism goes a step further. It ties this practice to virtue. Being fully present isn't just about productivity or peace of mind. It's about showing up authentically in your relationships, your work, and your life. When you give someone your undivided attention, you're not just practicing focus, you're practicing respect. When you immerse yourself in a task without distraction, you're not just working efficiently, you're honoring the opportunity to do it well. This might sound lofty, but the daily practice is refreshingly concrete. Start small. When drinking your morning coffee, just drink the coffee. Taste the bitterness, feel the warmth of the cup, notice the steam curling upward. When talking to a friend, listen to their words without rehearsing your response. These moments of undivided attention are like anchors in a stormy sea. They ground you in what's real, not what's clamoring for your attention. The more you exercise this muscle, the more natural it becomes to slip into focus even amidst chaos. The modern world may be designed to fragment your attention, but Stoicism hands you the tools to piece it back together, one mindful moment at a time. One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers for cutting through distraction is something called the Dichotomy of Control, a simple but profound idea that divides everything in life into two categories: what's within your power and what isn't. Epictetus, who began his life in chains before becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, put it this way: some things are up to us and some things are not up to us. At first glance, that might sound obvious, but here's where it gets transformative. Most of our mental clutter comes from confusing the two. We waste energy worrying about traffic jams, other people's opinions, or the ping of a notification, none of which we actually control. Meanwhile, we neglect the one thing we do control completely, where we direct our attention. Think about the last time you got frustrated in traffic. The cars weren't moving, your schedule was thrown off, and maybe you even honked or muttered under your breath. Here's the Stoic perspective: the traffic jam. Not yours to control, your reaction entirely yours. That's the pivot point. Every distraction, every interruption, every external chaos falls into that first category, things you can't command. But your focus, that belongs to you. It's like holding a lantern in a storm. You can't stop the wind or rain, but you can choose where to shine the light. This distinction is more than philosophical, it's intensely practical. Start paying attention to how many daily distractions are truly outside your influence. The coworker who interrupts your flow, the social media algorithm designed to hijack your attention, even the weather ruining your morning run. Now notice what happens when you mentally sort them this way. The moment you label something as not mine to control, it loses its grip on your mind. That's not passive resignation, it's active liberation. The Stoics called this the art of acquiescence, accepting reality as it is so you can focus your energy where it matters. Here's an exercise to try today. Grab a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, list the distractions that pulled you away this week. The noisy construction outside, your phone buzzing during dinner, the anxiety about an upcoming meeting. Now go through each item and ask, is this within my control? The noise, no. Your decision to close the window or put on headphones, yes. The buzzing phone. No, your choice to silence it or leave it in another room, absolutely. That meeting you're anxious about, the outcome isn't guaranteed, but your preparation is. Suddenly, what felt like an overwhelming barrage of distractions reveals its true shape, a handful of external events and a vast landscape of internal choices. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. As emperor, his days were filled with demands, crises, and interruptions. Yet he wrote in his journal, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." Notice what he didn't say, that he'd change them. He recognized their actions as beyond his control, which freed him to focus on his own responses. That's the superpower hidden in this ancient practice. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you reclaim an astonishing amount of mental real estate. Now apply this to modern distractions, that endless scroll of social media. You can't control its existence, but you control the thumb that swipes, the colleague who derails your focus with small talk. You can't mute their voice, but you can set boundaries or redirect the conversation. Even internal distractions like anxiety or boredom aren't fully controllable in the moment, but your decision to engage with them or return to the task at hand. That's yours. This is why the Stoics considered the dichotomy of control the foundation of mental freedom. It's not about ignoring life's chaos, it's about changing your relationship to it. So the next time you feel pulled in 10 directions, pause and ask, where does my control actually lie? The answer will always point you back to the same place: your attention, your judgments, your actions. Everything else is just weather passing through. And here's the beautiful paradox: the more you accept what you can't control, the more focused you become on what you can. That shift doesn't just reduce distraction, it transforms how you move through the world. There's a profound Stoic practice that transforms how we experience distractions, not by fighting them, but by embracing them with a mindset the ancients called amor fati, or love of fate. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private writings. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. At first glance, that might sound like resignation, but it's actually the opposite. Amor fati isn't about passively accepting life's interruptions. It's about actively finding value in them. Imagine you're deep in work when a loud conversation breaks your concentration. The typical reaction is frustration, clenched teeth, muttered complaints, maybe even storming off to find quieter space. But what if, instead of seeing that interruption as a thief stealing your focus, you saw it as a blacksmith's forge, hammering your ability to concentrate under pressure? This shift is at the heart of Stoic presence. Most of us approach distractions like unwelcome guests, shoving them out the door the moment they arrive. But the Stoics invite them in, not to surrender to chaos, but to train in the art of returning. Every ping from your phone, every unexpected knock at your door, every wandering thought isn't just noise, it's a repetition in the gym of your mind. Think of it like this: a pianist doesn't master a concerto by practicing in perfect silence. They learn by playing through mistakes, interruptions, and sour notes until their focus becomes unshakable. That's amor fati in action, loving the very things that test you because they're what make you stronger. Marcus Aurelius faced this daily. As emperor, his life was a relentless stream of petitions, crises, and demands. Yet he wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." Notice what he's doing here. He's not wishing for a quieter day or more agreeable people. He's preparing to meet each distraction with purpose, seeing even the most frustrating encounters as opportunities to practice patience, clarity, and focus. This mindset flips modern productivity advice on its head. We're told to eliminate distractions, block apps, mute notifications, retreat into isolation. But the Stoics would argue that's like learning to swim by avoiding water. Real focus isn't the absence of distraction, it's the ability to navigate through it. Next time your coworker interrupts with an urgent question, or your child tugs at your sleeve during an important call, pause. Instead of reacting with irritation, try this reframe. Here's my chance to practice what I've learned. Can I listen fully, respond calmly, then return to my task without carrying the frustration forward? That's amor fati, not just tolerating life's interruptions, but using them as stepping stones to deeper presence. The beauty of this practice is its immediacy. You don't need special tools or perfect conditions to start. Even now, as you watch this video, there might be background noise, a flicker of restlessness, or the temptation to check your phone. Instead of resisting those impulses, acknowledge them with curiosity. That notification buzzing in your pocket, it's not just a distraction, it's a mini mindfulness bell reminding you to check in with your attention. The construction noise outside your window, a chance to practice focusing amid discomfort. This isn't about pretending distractions are pleasant. It's about recognizing they're inevitable and that your growth lies in how you meet them. So here's a challenge for today. Pick one common distraction, maybe the itch to check social media or the anxiety about an unfinished task, and experiment with amor fati. When it arises, take a breath and silently thank it for showing up. Then, like a sculptor shaping marble, use that moment to carve out your response. Will you let it pull you away, or will you use it as raw material to build focus? Every time you choose the latter, you're not just surviving the modern world's chaos, you're mastering it. Because presence isn't found by waiting for perfect stillness. It's found by learning to dance with full attention, even when the music keeps changing. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher and advisor to emperors, had a peculiar morning routine. Before starting his day, he would close his eyes and mentally rehearse every possible disaster that might unfold: interruptions, delays, difficult conversations, even personal losses. At first glance, this seems pessimistic, almost morbid, but here's the twist. He called this practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, and considered it the ultimate tool for maintaining focus in chaos. By envisioning distractions before they happened, he wasn't inviting anxiety, he was disarming it. Imagine walking into a crowded room knowing exactly where the exits are. That's what premeditatio malorum does for your attention. It maps the terrain of potential disruptions so they can't hijack you by surprise. Modern psychology confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies on implementation intentions, what we now call if-then planning, show that people who anticipate obstacles and plan responses in advance are significantly better at staying on track. When you decide ahead of time, if my coworker interrupts me, then I'll politely say I'm in deep focus and schedule a time to talk later. You're not just problem solving, you're programming your brain to bypass distraction without wasting mental energy in the moment. Seneca described this as fortifying the mind in advance, comparing it to a general who studies battlefields before the fighting begins. The noise of a construction site, the ping of a group chat, the lure of procrastination. None of these can derail you if you've already decided how to meet them. Here's how to practice this today. Tonight before bed, take 5 minutes to visualize tomorrow's tasks. Now imagine 3 things that could disrupt them: a last-minute request, a notification avalanche, or your own wandering mind. For each one, craft a specific response. If I'm tempted to check social media, then I'll take 3 deep breaths and return to my document. If anxiety about an upcoming meeting creeps in, then I'll jot down my concerns on a notepad to address later. This isn't about expecting the worst, it's about reclaiming agency. The Stoics knew what modern neuroscience proves. The brain responds to visualized scenarios almost as vividly as real ones. By rehearsing your reactions, you're laying neural pathways that make calm focus your default setting. What makes this approach so powerful is its realism. Most productivity advice assumes ideal conditions: quiet spaces, uninterrupted time, boundless motivation. But the Stoics started from a different premise: life will be messy. People will interrupt, your focus will waver. premeditatio malorum doesn't just prepare you for these moments, it transforms them into tests of your principles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Notice he didn't say, might be, he said, will be. That's the heart of the practice. By accepting distractions as inevitable, you stop resisting them and start working with them. You can see this in action with modern tools like the distraction list. Keep a notepad nearby while working, and every time an intrusive thought arises, I should check the news. Did I reply to that email? Jot it down without engaging. This simple act does two things. It acknowledges the distraction like Seneca's premeditation, then contains it like an if-then plan. The thought loses its urgency because you've assigned it a future time slot. The Stoics would call this giving assent wisely, at choosing which impressions deserve your attention. The brilliance of premeditatio malorum lies in its flexibility. Ancient Romans used it to prepare for political betrayals and shipwrecks. Today, we adapt it for digital interruptions and multitasking traps. The core remains unchanged. What we anticipate, we can navigate. When you mentally rehearse walking past a buzzing phone without grabbing it, or politely ending a rambling conversation to protect your focus, you're not just planning, you're practicing. And each time the real moment arrives, your response feels less like willpower and more like muscle memory. So tonight, as you're winding down, try this Stoic twist on bedtime preparation. Instead of just listing tomorrow's tasks, list tomorrow's potential distractions and your planned responses. Then watch what happens. The interruptions will still come, but they'll meet a version of you who's already done this dance in their mind. That's the quiet power of premeditatio malorum. It doesn't change the world's chaos. It changes your readiness to move through it, focused and unfazed. There's a counterintuitive Stoic exercise that cuts through distraction like nothing else. It's called negative visualization, and it works by flipping gratitude on its head. Instead of waiting to appreciate something until it's gone, you deliberately imagine its loss to sharpen your focus on the present. Seneca put it starkly, "What fortune has made yours is not your own." He wasn't advocating pessimism, he was teaching a radical form of presence. Picture this, you're scrolling through your phone at dinner, half listening to a loved one's story. Now imagine waking up tomorrow to find that person gone, vanished from your life. Suddenly, every glance at your screen feels like theft, stealing moments you'll never get back. That visceral shift is what negative visualization creates, not fear but clarity. This practice isn't about dwelling on doom, it's about waking up to what's already here. The modern world bombards us with endless alternatives, better conversations happening elsewhere, more exciting updates just a tap away. But the Stoics ask, what if this isn't just one option among many? What if it's the only version you'll ever get? Try it right now with your surroundings. Notice the device in your hands, the glow of the screen, the weight of it. Now imagine it's gone tomorrow, along with every digital connection it brings. Would you miss the mindless scrolling or the ability to video call someone you love? Negative visualization peels away the trivial to reveal what truly merits your attention. Seneca practiced this daily, writing, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." He'd mentally rehearse losing his wealth, status, even his closest relationships, not to torment himself, but to strip away taking them for granted. Here's how you can adapt this today. Next time you catch yourself distracted during a walk, maybe composing emails in your head instead of feeling the breeze pause. Close your eyes and picture being bedridden, aching to move freely just once more. When you open them, suddenly the ordinary becomes extraordinary. the crunch of leaves underfoot, the play of sunlight through branches. That's negative visualization at work. It doesn't just remove distractions, it reveals the wonder in what they were pulling you away from. The brilliance of this technique lies in its emotional immediacy. Logic alone won't make you put down your phone during a child's recital, but envisioning their graduation day arriving without you ever having truly listened. That lands differently. Ancient Stoics used this to cherish health before illness struck, friendships before conflicts arose, even life itself before death came. Modern research echoes this. People who mentally simulate losing everyday comforts report higher gratitude and life satisfaction. It's as if the brain needs contrast to see clearly, like trying to spot stars at noon versus midnight. So here's a challenge for the next 24 hours. Pick one routine moment: your morning coffee, a colleague's laugh, the weight of a book in your lap, and give it the negative visualization treatment. Imagine it vanished tomorrow, then watch what happens. The steam rising from your cup suddenly feels like a fleeting miracle. That coworker's annoying joke becomes a gift you'll miss when they transfer offices. Even traffic jams transform when you picture wishing for the chaos of normal life during a hospital stay. This practice doesn't just combat distraction, it rewires your perception of what's distracting you in the first place. Because presence isn't about ignoring life's noise, it's about hearing the music beneath it. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who transformed his suffering as a slave into timeless wisdom, gave us a simple but radical tool for mastering attention: the discipline of assent. He taught that between any external event and our reaction to it, there's a critical space, often just seconds wide, where we choose whether to engage or let it pass. It's not things that disturb us, he wrote, but our judgments about things. That tiny pause before reaching for your phone, before snapping at an interruption, before letting a notification derail your focus, that's the battlefield where presence is won or lost. Modern psychology calls this the gap between stimulus and response, but the Stoics framed it as something even more profound: the moment we either enslave ourselves to impulses or reclaim our freedom. Think of your mind as a courtroom where every distraction, a buzzing phone, a noisy coworker, an anxious thought, stands trial before gaining entry. The discipline of assent is your gavel. You're not banning these distractions outright, you're judging whether they deserve your attention. Epictetus put it bluntly: don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Say to it, hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. This isn't passive avoidance, it's active discernment. When a Slack message pings during deep work, you're not ignoring it, you're asking, is this urgent? Is this mine to handle? Does this align with what I'm doing right now? That 3-second interrogation changes everything. Modern research reveals why this works. The brain's amygdala, responsible for reactive impulses, fires signals faster than the prefrontal cortex can regulate them. But here's the game changer: even a micro pause weakens the amygdala's grip. The Stoics discovered this 2 millennia ago. They recognized that automatic reactions, like grabbing your phone when bored or refreshing emails when anxious, aren't just habits, they're surrenders of agency. Every time you pause before assenting to a distraction, you're not just resisting an impulse, you're rewiring your brain's hierarchy of control. Here's how to practice this today. Pick one routine distraction, maybe the itch to check Instagram when waiting in line, or the urge to multitask during a meeting. For the next 24 hours, turn each instance into a Stoic exercise. When the impulse arises, physically still your hand and mentally ask Epictetus's question: what does this represent? Is it boredom, social validation, avoidance of deeper work? The answer doesn't matter as much as the act of questioning. You'll start noticing something startling. Many distractions dissolve when exposed to scrutiny. Like a door-to-door salesman who flees when you ask for credentials, distractions often rely on speed, not substance. Marcus Aurelius modeled this daily. Amid the chaos of ruling Rome, he'd whisper to himself, "Wait for me a little, illusion." That word, illusion, cuts to the heart of Stoic assent. So much of what pulls at our attention isn't real urgency, it's manufactured importance. The red notification bubble, the ASAP email flag, the fear of missing out their phantoms that vanish under examination. By inserting that pause, you're not just managing distractions, you're exposing their emptiness. The discipline of assent shines brightest in small moments. That flicker of irritation when someone interrupts your flow, pause, the gravitational pull toward your phone first thing in the morning. Pause, the mental spiral after reading a frustrating headline, pause. In each case, you're not suppressing the impulse, you're creating space to choose something better. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, echoed this Stoic principle. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space is where freedom lives, so here's your challenge. For the next hour, become an anthropologist of your own attention. Carry a notepad and tally how many distractions request your assent, the ping of a text, the lure of a browser tab, even the internal chatter pulling you from the present. Don't judge or resist them, just notice. By sunset, you'll have uncovered a profound truth. You're not powerless against distraction. You've just been signing its permission slips without reading them. The discipline of assent revokes that autopilot, one conscious pause at a time. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, kept a secret weapon against distraction, not in his imperial treasury, but in the pages of a simple journal. What we now call his Meditations was never meant for publication. It was his private practice of untangling the day's chaos into clarity. Every morning, he'd write to prepare his mind for the coming storms. Every evening, he'd reflect on where his attention had wandered and why. This wasn't self-criticism, it was calibration. 2,000 years later, neuroscience confirms what the Stoics knew instinctively. The act of translating experiences into words forces the brain to slow down, examine, and ultimately master its own impulses. Your phone might track screen time, but Stoic journaling tracks something far more valuable: the alignment of your attention with your intentions. Here's how to borrow this practice today. Start with 2 questions each night. What pulled me away from presence today? And how did I meet that pull? Be ruthlessly specific. Not just social media, but scrolling Instagram when I felt anxious about the unfinished project. Not just distractions at work, but checked email 14 times because I was avoiding the hard creative task. This precision matters. Like a doctor diagnosing an illness, you can't treat vague symptoms. Marcus didn't write, "I was distracted." He named the exact thoughts that hijacked his focus: the courtier's flattery, or worry over the grain supply. By naming our modern equivalents, the dopamine hits of likes, the false urgency of notifications, we strip them of their power. The magic of Stoic journaling lies in its rhythm. Morning pages set the tone, evening pages reveal the gaps. Try this tomorrow. Before checking your phone, write 1 sentence naming your intention for focus. Today, I will listen fully in meetings without drafting replies in my head. Then that night, hold yourself gently accountable. Did you? If not, what bridge collapsed between your resolve and reality? Epictetus taught that self-awareness is the first step to mastery, saying, "If you would be a reader, read. If a writer, write." To be present, you must first notice where you're absent. You might worry this requires hours of writing. Not so. The Stoics favored brevity. Marcus's entries often read like military dispatches. try this minimalist template. Morning 1. One thing I will protect today, e.g., my focus during dinner with family. 2. One distraction I expect, the urge to check scores during the game. Evening 1. Where my focus held, fully listened to my daughter's school story. 2. Where it fractured, scrolled news during commute instead of observing the city. This isn't about guilt, it's about pattern recognition. Over weeks, you'll spot your personal distraction archetypes. Maybe anxiety drives you to refresh emails, or boredom sends you snack raiding the kitchen. Seneca called these the masks of distraction, and journaling helps you see behind them. Modern life bombards us with metrics: steps counted, emails answered, hours logged. Stoic journaling offers a different measure, not how much you did, but how fully you showed up for it. There's a reason Marcus's writings survived centuries while Rome's palaces crumbled. In those pages, he wasn't an emperor wrestling an empire. He was a human wrestling his attention just like you. And that battle, fought daily with honest words, is where presence is won. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere," a warning that feels eerily prophetic in our age of endless scrolling and fractured attention. The Stoics championed simplicity not as deprivation, but as liberation from the trivial, and nowhere do we need this wisdom more than in our digital lives. Picture your smartphone for a moment, a device that contains all human knowledge, yet often leaves us knowing less, not because the information isn't there, but because we've drowned the meaningful in a sea of meaningless alerts, tabs, and updates. This isn't just clutter, it's cognitive sabotage. The Stoic remedy, digital minimalism, the deliberate practice of treating your attention like sacred real estate and curating your tools accordingly. Start with Seneca's critique of superficial knowledge, the habit of skimming countless articles without absorbing any, or collecting facts like seashells without examining their depth. He compared such learning to digging in many places but never striking water. Now translate that to your digital habits. How many newsletters do you subscribe to but never read? How many podcasts play in the background while your mind wanders? The Stoic approach would ask, are these inputs deepening your understanding or merely giving the illusion of progress? Try this audit. For every app or subscription, ask 2 questions. Does this consistently add value to my life? And could I achieve the same benefit with less frequency? You might discover that reading one long-form essay per week nourishes you more than daily headlines that evaporate by noon. But minimalism isn't just about subtraction, it's about intentionality. The Stoics didn't avoid information, they prioritized wisdom over accumulation. Apply this by designing tech boundaries that mirror Stoic disciplines. Set app limits not as punishment but as protection for your focus. Declutter your follow lists with the same ruthlessness Seneca advised for friendships. Associate with those who will improve you. If an account leaves you agitated or envious rather than inspired, unfollow without guilt. Even small resets like turning your phone grayscale to reduce visual dopamine hits can recalibrate your relationship with technology from compulsive to conscious. The ultimate Stoic filter is purpose. Before opening any app, hear Epictetus's voice asking, is this essential to your life's mission or just a passing whim? Social media isn't inherently evil. It's a tool that becomes virtuous or vicious based on use. Need to stay informed about your industry? Schedule 20 minutes to scan professional forums, then close the tab. Want to share family photos? Post intentionally, then log off without falling into the infinite scroll. The goal isn't monastic rejection of technology, but the Stoic art of using things without being used by them. Here's where modern minimalism meets ancient wisdom. Designate tech-free hours as you would a Stoic meditation practice. early mornings or late evenings when the world is quiet become sanctuaries for uninterrupted thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations by candlelight, free from the distractions of imperial Rome. Your version might mean leaving your phone charging in another room during dinner or committing to paper books before bed. These aren't restrictions, they're reclamations. Every time you resist checking your phone during a lull, you're not just avoiding distraction, you're training what the Stoics called hegemonikon, the governing faculty of your mind. The paradox: by creating space through minimalism, you gain more than you lose. A feed curated to 10 truly meaningful accounts beats 200 that leave you numb. 1 hour of deep reading surpasses 3 of fragmented browsing. Like Seneca pruning his library to only the most essential scrolls, you'll find that less digital clutter means more mental clarity, the kind that lets you hear your own thoughts again, and maybe even recognize something Marcus Aurelius whispered to himself centuries ago. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. The modern world worships at the altar of multitasking, praising those who juggle emails during meetings, scroll through news while eating breakfast, and listen to podcasts while exercising. But the Stoics saw through this illusion centuries ago. Musonius Rufus, the Roman philosopher who taught Epictetus, put it bluntly: if you undertake to do anything, do it with all your soul. Not with part of your attention, not while dividing your focus with all of you. There's an ancient Zen parable about a monk who spent decades mastering archery. When asked his secret, he simply said, "When I draw the bow, there is only the bow." That's the essence of Stoic monotasking, not just doing one thing at a time, but being one thing while you do it. Consider how we typically read today, with music playing, notifications buzzing, maybe even a television murmuring in the background. Now contrast that with Seneca's approach to studying. After I've found the right author, I devote myself to him alone. I shut myself away and don't emerge until I've thoroughly digested his wisdom. He wasn't just avoiding distraction, he was creating conditions where deep understanding could take root. Modern science validates this. Studies show that multitasking doesn't just reduce efficiency, it literally fragments our cognition, leaving us with shallower comprehension and weaker memory retention. The brain wasn't designed to parallel process complex tasks. It thrives on sequential, immersive focus. Here's how to reclaim this Stoic discipline in daily life. Start by identifying your anchor task, the one activity that deserves undivided attention today. It might be writing a report, listening to a loved one, or even something as simple as savoring a meal. Then create what the Stoics would call a sacred space around it. For 30 minutes, let that task occupy the entire landscape of your attention. If you're reading, silence your phone and sit in a quiet corner. If you're in conversation, maintain eye contact and notice the subtle shifts in tone and expression. At first, this will feel uncomfortable, like stepping off a treadmill that's been spinning for years. But gradually, you'll discover something astonishing. The task itself becomes more rewarding. Words on a page carry deeper meaning. Flavors intensify. Conversations reveal layers you'd previously missed. Musonius Rufus taught that true mastery lies in doing ordinary things with extraordinary presence. He'd challenge his students to perform mundane chores, chopping wood, kneading bread, with the same focus they'd apply to philosophical debates. Why? Because the quality of your attention doesn't discriminate between tasks. The mind you bring to washing dishes is the same mind you bring to solving life's greatest challenges. Try this experiment today. Pick one routine activity: folding laundry, walking the dog, drinking your morning coffee, and perform it with monastic concentration. Notice the texture of the fabric, the rhythm of your breath, the warmth radiating through the cup. You're not just completing a task, you're training what the Stoics called the art of being here. The irony of monotasking is that it feels inefficient until you experience its results. We fear that dedicating full attention to one thing will leave other responsibilities neglected. But the Stoics observed the opposite phenomenon. A mind trained in singular focus accomplishes more with less effort because it isn't constantly paying the cognitive tax of switching gears. Imagine writing an email without simultaneously worrying about the next meeting, or exercising without mental replays of yesterday's argument. Each action performed wholly leaves no residue of half-finished thoughts. Marcus Aurelius described this state as the tranquility that comes when you stop scattering your attention across random impulses. Practical steps for cultivating monotasking might surprise you. Instead of grand gestures like digital detoxes, start with micro-commitments. Set a timer for 15 minutes and commit to writing without checking your phone. When eating lunch, place your utensil down between bites to slow the rhythm. During work calls, close your eyes periodically to absorb the speaker's words without visual distractions. These small acts build what neuroscientists call attentional muscle, the ability to direct and sustain focus at will. The Stoics would add another layer: see each monotasking session as moral training. Every time you resist the urge to split your attention, you're not just being productive, you're practicing integrity, aligning your actions with your intentions. There's a profound freedom in this approach that multitasking can never offer. When you fully inhabit one activity, you're no longer pulled between past regrets and future anxieties. The Japanese call this ikujio zamai, the state of being absorbed in a single action. The Stoics called it wisdom. Whatever the name, the effect is the same. You discover that presence isn't something you find. It's something you choose moment by moment, task by task. And in that choice lies an unexpected gift, not just better work or deeper relationships, but the quiet joy of being exactly where you are. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who turned physical suffering into wisdom, had a radical view of breathing most of us overlook. He taught that each breath is more than oxygen. It's a bridge between body and mind, a tangible tether to the present moment. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, he reminded his students, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. But he might have added, we have lungs to remind us we're here. Ancient Stoics saw breath as the ultimate anchor, not just for calming nerves, but for reclaiming attention from the whirlwind of distractions. When your mind chases after regrets or anxieties, your breath is the one thing that can never be anywhere but here and now. Here's how to turn this ancient insight into a modern superpower. Try the Stoic 4-4-4 breath. Inhale deeply for 4 seconds, feeling the air fill your lungs like water pouring into a glass. Hold for 4 seconds. This is where Epictetus' body-mind connection becomes visceral. Notice how stillness in the body creates space in the mind. Then exhale for 4 seconds, releasing distractions like sand slipping through your fingers. Repeat this cycle 3 times. Unlike generic mindfulness exercises, this isn't about emptying your mind. It's about filling it with intention. The numbers aren't arbitrary, they're a cognitive speed bump, forcing your racing thoughts to slow to the rhythm of your diaphragm. Now apply this to the chaos of daily life. Before your next meeting, instead of skimming notes or checking emails, steal 30 seconds for Stoic breathing. Stand still, plant your feet firmly, and cycle through 4-4-4. You'll arrive at the table not just physically present, but mentally prepared like a diver taking one last breath before plunging into deep water. Even more potent, use it as a circuit breaker for digital distraction. When you catch yourself mindlessly reaching for your phone, pause and take a single 4-4-4 cycle first. Often you'll find the urge dissipates like fog under sunlight. The Stoics called this creating space between impulse and action, and modern neuroscience confirms its power. That brief pause reduces amygdala activation, giving your prefrontal cortex time to override autopilot. Marcus Aurelius left us a clue about why this works in his private writings. The mind adapts itself to the quality of its habitual thoughts. Every time you anchor yourself with breath, you're not just calming your nerves, you're training your mind to associate scattered thinking with discomfort and focused presence with relief. It's like building muscle memory for attention. Picture a carpenter smoothing wood with long, deliberate strokes. At first, the motions feel awkward, but over time, the rhythm becomes second nature. Your breath works the same way on your focus. Each conscious cycle sands away distractions' rough edges. For an even deeper Stoic twist, add a mantra to your breathing. As you inhale, silently think, "This moment is enough," holding, "I am where I need to be," exhaling, "Distractions can wait." This isn't positive thinking, it's what Epictetus called disciplining your inner dialogue. By pairing breath with intentional words, you create a double anchor against the tides of distraction. Modern therapists call this cognitive diffusion, but the Stoics knew it as prosoche, the art of vigilant awareness. The real test comes when life doesn't pause for your practice. That's when the Stoic breath shines brightest. Stuck in traffic, 44-4, overwhelmed by a cluttered inbox. 44-4, waiting in line with your phone burning a hole in your pocket. 44-4, no special posture or quiet room required, just the simple act of reclaiming your rhythm from the chaos. Seneca described this as retreating into yourself, not to escape the world but to meet it with clarity. Each conscious breath is a miniature homecoming, a reminder that no matter how far your thoughts wander, your body and your attention can always return to this breath, this moment, this anchor. Marcus Aurelius didn't just wake up and check his phone, he woke up and checked his mind. Every morning before dawn, the emperor would light a lamp and write in his journal, not to list tasks but to set the tone of his attention. His words weren't about conquering the day, they were about conquering his own distractions. When you arise in the morning, he wrote, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's the heart of Stoic intention setting, beginning not with what you'll do, but how you'll be. Modern productivity culture obsesses over goals: finish the report, hit the gym, clear the inbox. But the Stoics recognized a deeper truth. You can achieve every goal on your list and still lose the day if your mind was scattered throughout it. Consider two approaches to starting your morning. The first, today I need to finish the presentation, reply to 30 emails and squeeze in a workout. The second, today I meet each task with full presence, respond rather than react, and protect moments of stillness. Both might lead to the same outcomes, but the second transforms the journey. Goals measure completion, intentions measure quality of attention. Seneca captured this when he advised, whatever you do, do it with your whole self. That's the difference between checking off, have a conversation with my partner, and truly listening without mental rehearsal of your next point. One fills a to-do list, the other fills your life with meaning. Here's how to practice this today. Before reaching for your device tomorrow morning, pause, close your eyes and ask, what intention would anchor me right now? Not what you'll accomplish, but how you'll show up. Maybe it's today I notice when my mind wanders and gently return, or I'll treat interruptions as tests of focus. Keep it simple, one phrase that serves as a compass, not a checklist. The ancient Stoics called this prosoche, the practice of vigilant awareness. Modern psychology calls it implementation intention, but the effect is the same. You're not just planning actions, you're programming your mindset. Notice what happens when you set intentions this way. A commute becomes meditation when your intention is, I'll observe the world passing by without judging it. A work session shifts when your mantra is, I'm here to create, not just complete. Even mundane tasks, folding laundry, washing dishes, transform when done with the intention, I'll notice textures, rhythms, the quiet poetry of ordinary moments. This isn't about adding more to your day. It's about experiencing what's already there more deeply. The Roman philosopher Musonius Rufus trained his students to approach even chopping wood with full presence, asking, if not now, when will you live? The brilliance of Stoic intention setting lies in its flexibility. Unlike rigid schedules that crumble at the first interruption, intentions adapt. If your morning intention was engage fully in meetings, but your calendar clears unexpectedly, that same focus can shift to a walk or an impromptu conversation. Epictetus, who taught from a crippled body, knew this well. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. The what might change by the hour, the how remains steady. Try this experiment tonight. Place a notepad by your bed and write one intention for tomorrow, not a task, but a quality of mind. In the morning, read it before your feet touch the floor. You might choose Marcus's famous reminder, I will meet meddling people today, but I won't be disturbed by their ignorance, or perhaps Seneca's counsel, this hour is mine, I will not let it slip away half-lived. Then watch what unfolds. The same traffic jam that usually frays your nerves becomes a chance to practice patience. The coworker who interrupts your flow is no longer an annoyance, but a test of your commitment to presence. Setting intentions this way does something remarkable. It turns ordinary days into training grounds for wisdom. Every email replied to with focus, every meal savored without screens, every conversation heard without mental multitasking becomes a brick in the foundation of what the Stoics called eudaimonia, a life well lived. Not because you checked every box, but because you were truly there for each one. Marcus Aurelius had a secret weapon against daily frustrations, one he called the view from above. Picture this, you're stuck in traffic, late for a meeting, gripping the wheel as your blood pressure rises. Now imagine your perspective lifting first above the car, then the city, higher until continents shrink to patches of color and human dramas become invisible specks. That frantic meeting, the rude driver who cut you off, from this vantage point, they dissolve into cosmic insignificance. The Stoics called this exercise taking the cosmic view. And it wasn't about dismissing life's importance, it was about recognizing most stressors lose their power when seen against the vast canvas of time and space. This technique works because it forces a fundamental shift in scale. Your argument with a coworker feels monumental in the moment, but how will it look in 5 years, from your deathbed, from the perspective of a star watching millennia pass in silence? Marcus wrote in his private journal, think of the whole universe where the difference between life and death is a mere dot, and the span of existence a pinprick. That's not nihilism, it's liberation. When you realize how little space your current crisis occupies in the grand scheme, you stop pouring oceans of attention into teacup problems. Try this today, next time you're spiraling into frustration over a missed deadline, a snippy email, a long line at the coffee shop pause. Close your eyes and perform mental time travel. Fast forward 6 months, will this still sting? Now zoom out further. Picture Earth from space, your city just a smudge of light, your problem invisible even through the most powerful telescope. That tightness in your chest, the angry monologue running through your head, notice how they start to feel lighter, less urgent. The Stoics weren't suggesting we ignore real challenges. They were teaching us to distinguish between genuine concerns and self-created dramas. What makes this practice so powerful is its double lens. It doesn't just shrink today's irritations, it magnifies what truly matters. Seen from this height, petty grudges fade, but meaningful connections glow brighter. That project you're procrastinating on because it feels daunting. From the cosmic view, it might be one of the few things worth your limited time on Earth. Marcus described this realization as stripping away the legend that encrusts things, revealing their true proportions. A harsh critique that felt like a dagger at noon becomes a forgotten whisper by midnight when viewed against life's grand tapestry. Modern psychology validates this ancient wisdom. Researchers call it temporal distancing, the act of stepping outside immediate emotions to view situations from a future perspective. Studies show people who practice this technique make wiser decisions, experience less stress, and even strengthen their immune systems. The Stoics just happened to discover it 2,000 years earlier, without fMRI machines to prove its efficacy. Here's how to adapt the view from above for daily life. Keep a simple prompt visible, a photo of Earth from space on your desk, or a wristband inscribed with Marcus' question, "Is this essential?" When distraction or irritation strikes, use it as a trigger. That urgent email derailing your morning, picture yourself a year from now. Will you remember sending it 5 minutes earlier? The social media post fueling envy. Imagine your great-grandchildren sorting through digital artifacts. Will this pixelated moment be among what's preserved? The paradox of this practice is that shrinking problems to their true size doesn't diminish life, it intensifies it. When you stop sweating the small stuff, you create space to fully inhabit what remains. As Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it." The view from above isn't an escape from reality. It's the ultimate reality check, a reminder that most of what hijacks our attention today will be irrelevant tomorrow, next year, or in the sweep of centuries. The traffic jam will end, the harsh words will fade, but the moments you choose to be fully present, those are the ones that echo. Seneca once observed that noise is the most impertinent of interruptions, an idea that feels painfully relevant today, where the average person encounters more sensory input before breakfast than their ancestors did in weeks. But the Stoics didn't just complain about noise, they weaponized silence against it. Unlike modern meditation apps that promise calm through guided tracks, Stoic silence was something fiercer, a deliberate stripping away of external voices to hear your own thoughts clearly. Picture Seneca in his claustrophobic Roman apartment, drowning out the chaos of chariot wheels and street vendors by turning inward. His secret wasn't better walls, it was disciplined attention. Retire into yourself as much as possible, he advised. Associate with people who can improve you, welcome those you can improve. The process is mutual. That's the heart of Stoic silence, not just the absence of sound, but the presence of undistracted thought. Consider how most of us experience silence today, if at all. It's the accidental quiet when our earbuds die, filled immediately with anxious phone fumbling, or the brittle pause in conversations that we rush to fill with small talk. The Stoics would recognize this as a kind of poverty, not of noise but of courage. Sitting with one's own mind has become so uncomfortable that we'll accept any distraction rather than face it. Yet here's the paradox: in avoiding silence, we're starving the very faculty that makes us human, our ability to reflect, question, and choose. Marcus Aurelius didn't build his wisdom in forums or lecture halls, but in the quiet hours before dawn, wrestling with his journal. The good news: you don't need a hermit's cave to cultivate this practice. Start with what the Stoics called micro-silences, intentional pockets of quiet woven into daily life. Try walking without a podcast, letting your footsteps become a meditation, or commute without music, observing how your mind behaves when not constantly entertained. Even washing dishes can become a silence exercise if you resist the reflex to fill the space with background noise. These moments train what Epictetus called the inner citadel, the mental fortress that guards your attention against siege. Modern research validates this. Just 15 minutes of daily silence can regenerate neural circuits fried by constant stimulation. Here's a challenge straight from the Stoic playbook. For the next 5 days, gift yourself 5 minutes of unbroken silence. Not meditation with mantras, not quiet time with ambient rain sounds, pure, unfiltered quiet. Sit by a window or under a tree and observe the battle raging in your mind. You'll likely discover 2 things. First, how violently your brain rebels against stillness like a caged animal. Second, how clarity emerges once the mental dust settles. The Stoics called this the still point, the eye of life's hurricane where wisdom speaks in whispers. Seneca described the experience vividly. As soon as you've quieted external noises, you begin to hear internal ones. Those internal voices, the regrets, plans, and half-formed ideas, aren't enemies to silence, they're its purpose. What makes Stoic silence different from modern mindfulness is its active quality. This isn't about emptying the mind, but about creating space for better thoughts to flourish. Imagine your consciousness as a murky pond. Constant stimulation keeps the water churned up and cloudy. Silence lets the sediment settle until you can see clearly to the bottom. That's why Marcus Aurelius began his days in stillness, not to escape his imperial duties, but to meet them with precision. His journal reads like a man sieving his thoughts through silence. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The real test comes when we bring this practice into noisy environments. True Stoic silence isn't contingent on perfect conditions, it's portable. Next time you're in a crowded cafe or a bustling office, experiment with internal stillness. Let conversations become background hums, notifications dissolve into white noise, and feel your attention root deeper than the chaos. Epictetus, who taught in a noisy marketplace, mastered this. If someone tried to take control of your body and hand you over to a passerby, you'd fight back. Yet you easily hand over your mind to anyone who insults you. External silence trains us to recognize when we've surrendered our attention and to reclaim it without fanfare. In a world that equates silence with awkwardness or disengagement, choosing quiet becomes radical. It declares that not every space needs filling, not every thought needs sharing, and not every moment needs soundtracking. The Stoics knew this 2 millennia ago. Silence isn't retreat from life, it's the crucible where we distill life's meaning. So tonight, before sleep, try this. Power down your devices a few minutes early. Lie in the dark and listen not to podcasts or playlists, but to the architecture of your own mind. You might discover what Seneca did in those still hours. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And sometimes to be silent is to finally hear. Epictetus, the philosopher who found freedom while physically chained, had a radical prescription for scattered minds. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. At first glance, this sounds like simple gratitude, but for Stoics, it was something far more potent, a focusing mechanism. Imagine standing in a crowded subway car, irritated by the jostling and noise. The Stoic approach wouldn't be to tolerate it, it would be to transform it. That elbow brushing your arm, proof you're surrounded by vibrant life, the chatter you can't escape. A reminder of language's miraculous ability to connect minds. This isn't positive thinking, it's perceptual alchemy, turning distractions into anchors that pull you deeper into the present moment. Modern psychology confirms what Epictetus knew. Gratitude isn't just good manners, it's a cognitive filter that reshapes how we process reality. Studies show people who practice daily gratitude have stronger attention regulation and less susceptibility to distractions. The Stoics took this further. They saw appreciation as a discipline, not just a feeling. Marcus Aurelius would begin his days by listing ordinary blessings we routinely overlook. I can bear illness without complaining, see beauty without craving to possess it, and choose kindness even when tired. Notice what he's doing. Each acknowledgement grounds him in what is rather than what might be. That's the secret weapon hidden in Stoic gratitude. It doesn't just make you happier, it makes you more here. Here's how to apply this today with a twist on the classic gratitude journal. Instead of listing obvious blessings like health or family, try the Stoic distraction flip. Identify 3 interruptions that irritated you today: the barking dog, the traffic jam, the colleague who derailed your focus, and reframe each as an unexpected gift. That dog, a reminder that your ears work perfectly to hear it. The traffic, protected time to notice cloud patterns you'd usually ignore. The chatty coworker, proof you're trusted enough for spontaneous connection. This exercise isn't about denying frustration, it's about revealing the hidden layers beneath it. As Seneca wrote, "No man enjoys the true taste of life but he who is ready and willing to quit it," meaning we only truly value things when confronted with their fragility. What makes this practice uniquely Stoic is its active quality. Unlike passive appreciation, Stoic gratitude engages in mental judo, using distraction's own energy to deepen presence. Picture a musician turning a screeching subway break into part of their street performance, or a chef incorporating unexpected rain into their soup recipe. Epictetus trained his students to do this with life's interruptions. Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will. Say this to yourself with regard to everything that happens. That barking dog becomes your mindfulness bell, the construction noise your concentration gym, the delayed flight your unexpected meditation retreat. The brilliance lies in its dual effect. By appreciating distractions, you accomplish 2 seemingly contradictory things. You acknowledge their existence without letting them dominate. It's the difference between resisting a wave and learning to surf it. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated this during his military campaigns, writing, "The cucumber is bitter. Throw it away, there are brambles in the path, go around them, that's all you need to know." He wasn't ignoring life's irritants, he was refusing to let them become more than what they were. Try this tonight. Review your day not for what went smoothly, but for what tried to pull you away. Then find the hidden gift in each, the toddler who interrupted your work call. A living reminder that love isn't scheduled. The Wi-Fi outage that killed your productivity, an enforced break your body needed. Even existential distractions take on new meaning. The mortality thoughts that creep in at 3 a.m. aren't just morbid. They're urgent memos to savor today's ordinary miracles. As Epictetus put it, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. This practice reaches its peak when applied to internal distractions. Anxiety about tomorrow's meeting transforms when appreciated as proof you care about your work. The itch to check social media becomes a signal flare revealing your hunger for authentic connection. Even boredom, that great modern enemy, shifts from something to escape to a rare commodity in our overstimulated world, a blank canvas for creativity. The Stoics would argue that most distractions aren't intruders, they're mirrors showing us what we truly value if we're brave enough to look. So the next time life interrupts your plans, try Epictetus's challenge. Ask not that events should happen as you will, but let your will be that events should happen as they do. That construction noise isn't ruining your morning, it's gifting you a chance to practice focus amid chaos. The delayed package isn't testing your patience, it's revealing how thoroughly modern convenience has rewired your expectations. In this light, gratitude becomes more than a feeling. It's the ultimate focusing tool, turning every distraction into a stepping stone toward unshakable presence. After all, as Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in the trenches of war and governance, the present moment is all you ever own, and what could be more worthy of your attention than that? Cato the Younger stood in the Roman Senate, surrounded by whispers of corruption and political games, yet his attention never wavered. While others shifted alliances for power, he remained fixed on principle, even when it cost him everything. The historian Plutarch recounts how Cato would often be the last man left in the Senate chambers, reading by lamplight long after others had rushed off to feasts and festivities. His secret wasn't superhuman willpower, it was a radical commitment to aligning his focus with his values. In a society drowning in excess, where politicians gorged themselves on imported delicacies and gossip, Cato ate simple meals, wore plain clothing, and trained his mind to resist distraction by practicing poverty voluntarily. He didn't just avoid temptation, he walked straight toward it to prove his focus could remain unbroken. Contrast that with today's world, where convenience and stimulation are available at the tap of a screen. The average person encounters more information before lunch than Cato did in months, yet struggles to concentrate on a single task for 20 uninterrupted minutes. Where Cato trained his focus like a muscle, deliberately exposing himself to discomfort, we've built lives designed to avoid even minor friction. Streaming services eliminate waiting, notifications deliver constant validation, and apps are engineered to exploit our attention vulnerabilities. The Stoics would recognize this as a profound reversal of wisdom. Instead of strengthening our capacity to focus, we've outsourced it to algorithms. But here's the hopeful truth hidden in Cato's example. His discipline wasn't innate. It was cultivated through daily choices anyone could replicate. He practiced the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, imagining worst-case scenarios to steel his focus against panic. When others scrambled to please the crowd, he'd rehearse speeches alone, refining his thoughts without applause. Even his famous defiance of Julius Caesar wasn't impulsive. It was the culmination of a lifetime spent asking, what would integrity do here? That's the question modern focus requires us to confront, not just how to concentrate, but what deserves our concentration in the first place. Think of someone you know who embodies this kind of unwavering focus, perhaps a mentor who listens without glancing at their phone, an artist who loses track of time in creative flow, or a grandparent who finds joy in simple routines untouched by digital noise. Now imagine their daily habits. Would they keep their inbox open all day, refresh social media during conversations, multitask while eating? The gap between their choices and ours reveals an uncomfortable truth. Focus isn't stolen from us. We surrender it piece by piece, often for trivial rewards. The Stoic approach flips modern productivity advice on its head. While apps promise focus by blocking distractions, figures like Cato achieved it by examining what lay beneath their urges to stray. When tempted to gossip, he asked whether it served justice. When drawn to luxury, he questioned if it weakened his resilience. This isn't about austerity for its own sake. It's about creating space between impulse and action. Picture a modern parallel, pausing before opening a news app to ask, will this inform or inflame me? Hesitating before venting frustrations to consider, is this complaint productive? Each moment of pause is a miniature Cato moment, a reclamation of sovereignty over your attention. Consider how differently we might structure our days with this lens. Instead of fighting distractions reactively, we design our environments proactively. The writer who disconnects Wi-Fi to enter deep work isn't being extreme. They're following Cotto's playbook of removing temptations before they can tempt. The executive who schedules thinking walks without headphones isn't missing out. They're cultivating the mental clarity Roman Stoics found in quiet strolls through olive groves. Even small resets like leaving your phone in another room during meals aren't sacrifices, but declarations that some moments are too precious to divide. What made Cotto's focus legendary wasn't its perfection, but its purpose. He could have used his discipline to accumulate wealth or power like his peers. Instead, he directed it toward something more rare in any era: consistency between belief and action. In a world that glorifies busyness as a status symbol, his example whispers a radical alternative, that true prestige lies in what you refuse to let distract you. The next time you feel pulled in 10 directions, ask his defining question. If I say this matters, does my focus prove it? The answer will either affirm your priorities or reveal needs realignment, a choice as relevant today as in the marble halls of ancient Rome. Marcus Aurelius faced more distractions in a single morning than most of us encounter in a month, petitioning senators, mutinous generals, even a plague ravaging his city. Yet his journal reveals an astonishing perspective. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That radical reframe transforms every distraction from enemy to instructor. Imagine your most persistent interruption: the chatty coworker, the construction noise outside your window, the pinging phone. Now picture it wearing a tiny graduation cap, holding a pointer stick, ready to teach you focus with every unwelcome appearance. That's the Stoic obstacle as opportunity principle in action. Consider how Olympic swimmers train. They don't practice in still pools. Coaches deliberately create waves to simulate chaotic race conditions. The Stoics applied this same logic to mental focus. When Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are," he wasn't just offering comfort, he was revealing a training protocol. Your colleague who always interrupts your flow, that's your personal focus coach offering live drills in patience, the notification avalanche on your phone. A pop quiz in impulse control. Even internal distractions like anxiety become weightlifting for your attention span. The heavier the thought, the stronger your focus muscles grow when you practice returning to the present. Practical application turns philosophy into power. Next time a distraction strikes, try this 3-step Stoic drill. First, name it neutrally, the 3 p.m. social media itch. Then acknowledge its training value. This is my chance to practice delayed response. Finally, choose a deliberate action, either engage with intention or let it pass like a cloud. One executive transformed her open office headaches by treating each interruption as a focus rep. She'd pause, breathe, then either schedule a later chat or fully engage for 2 minutes before returning to work. Within weeks, she reported an unexpected side effect: the same mental discipline spilled into healthier eating and more present parenting. The magic lies in expectation shifts. Most of us brace against distractions like unwanted telemarketers, wasting energy wishing they'd stop calling. The Stoic approach answered cheerfully, another chance to practice hanging up gracefully. Historical accounts describe Cotto the Younger purposely wearing thin clothing in winter to harden his resolve. Modern equivalents might include working near a cafe's espresso machine to strengthen concentration, or leaving your phone visible but untouched during deep work sessions. The goal isn't to seek discomfort, but to stop seeing it as your focus's kryptonite. This mindset reaches its peak when applied to digital distractions. Every app notification follows the same psychological blueprint as slot machines' variable rewards that hook our attention. But what if you viewed each ping as a Stoic trap designed to test your wisdom? The moment you feel that pull to check, you've identified your personal training ground. Tech ethicists call this surveillance capitalism. The Stoics would call it the perfect dojo for attention discipline. One writer I know replaced his lock screen with Marcus' question, "Is this essential?" turning every reach for his phone into a philosopher's inquiry. Your toughest distractions map directly to your growth areas. The parent constantly interrupted by children isn't just managing chaos, they're being offered master classes in presence. The creative professional besieged by emails isn't just battling inbox tyranny, they're training in priority triage under fire. Even chronic pain sufferers who practice this approach report an unexpected silver lining. Their condition becomes a relentless mindfulness bell, calling them back from mental wandering to bodily awareness. As Seneca observed while suffering from asthma, sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and to focus amidst distraction is to live twice. So here's your challenge before sunset today. Pick one recurring distraction and promote it to teacher status. Maybe it's the lure of news refreshes. Let each urge remind you to check in with your breathing instead. Perhaps it's your partner's nightly work vent. Practice full listening without problem solving. Even traffic jams transform when you see them as mobile meditation chambers. Write your chosen drill somewhere visible, and for the next 72 hours, track not whether distractions disappear, but how your relationship to them shifts. Because the ultimate Stoic twist isn't conquering external chaos, it's discovering that the obstacle course was the training ground you needed all along. Seneca once wrote a letter to his friend Lucilius with a line that cuts through 20 centuries of noise straight to our modern struggle. Guard your time. It's the one thing you can never get back. He wasn't just offering casual advice, he was issuing a battle cry against the silent theft of our days. Picture Seneca in his candlelit study, turning away dinner invitations and political gatherings not out of rudeness, but out of reverence for the sacred work of thinking. Now fast forward to today, your calendar pings with back-to-back Zoom calls, your phone buzzes with quick questions, and somehow it's sunset before you've touched the project that truly matters. The Stoic solution, time blocking with teeth, not just scheduling tasks, but fortifying your hours like a Roman general defending a frontier. Start with what Seneca called the audit. Before you can guard your time, you need to know where it's currently escaping. For 1 week, track your hours with Stoic honesty, not just work meetings, but the Instagram scrolls while waiting for coffee, the just 5 minutes of news that bleed into 30, the mental fog after switching tasks for the 10th time. Use color coding like a tactical map. Red for distractions, social media, reactive busy work, green for deep focus writing, strategizing, creating, blue for essentials, sleep, meals, movement. The results will likely shock you. Most people discover they're investing 80% of their time in the red zone, the modern equivalent of Seneca's time wasters, who drained his days with gossip and empty flattery. Now the pivot. Each Sunday, block your green zones first, not as tentative placeholders, but as non-negotiable citadels. Imagine these slots are meetings with Marcus Aurelius himself. You wouldn't cancel to binge Netflix. Schedule 2-hour blocks for deep work when your energy peaks for most mornings. Protect them with Seneca's ruthless pragmatism. Turn off notifications, silence your phone, even post a do not disturb sign if needed. The Stoics weren't against social bonds, they just believed in intentional connection over accidental interruption. Your colleague's quick question can wait 90 minutes, your best thinking can't. Here's where color coding reveals its genius. When you visually see a sea of red meetings, emails, errands encroaching on islands of green, the imbalance becomes undeniable. One tech CEO adapted this by making a rule: for every hour of red, he had to match it with green. Over time, his calendar didn't just rebalance, it transformed. Client calls became more focused, knowing they were time-boxed, and he reclaimed afternoons for strategic work instead of fighting fires. This mirrors Seneca's practice of reviewing his days each night, asking not "how busy was I?" but "how much of my time was truly mine?" The Stoic twist comes in handling inevitable disruptions. When a surprise meeting devours your green block, don't just reschedule, reclaim. Add 15 minutes to your next deep work session, like interest on stolen time. If distractions creep in, hear Epictetus' voice: "Is this interruption within my control? If not, how will I return to purpose?" Even Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, wrote about stealing moments between battles for reflection. Your version might be 5 minutes of focused breathing after a chaotic call, or turning commute time into audiobook learning instead of mindless scrolling. Practical tip: use your calendar's color scheme as a mindfulness tool. Before accepting any invitation, ask Seneca's brutal question: does this align with what I've deemed essential? If it's not a clear yes, it's a no. One writer I know color codes personal time as purple, untouchable hours for family, reading, and solitude. When a high-profile client requested a call during her daughter's soccer game, she declined with a phrase Seneca would applaud: "That's a guarded hour." The client respected her more, not less, for the boundary. This isn't about rigidity, it's about reverence. The difference between a scattered week and a purposeful one often comes down to seeing time, as Seneca did, not as an infinite resource, but as precious, fleeting, and worth defending with philosophical ferocity. Your calendar isn't just a tool, it's the ledger of your life's true investments. And when you start guarding green blocks like the treasures they are, you'll discover something startling. Most red-tinted distractions wither when starved of your attention, while focused hours compound into work that outlasts the seasons. Marcus Aurelius left us a quiet revelation in his private writings that shatters the myth of perfect focus. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. What impedes action advances action. This wasn't just poetic consolation, it was the emperor's hard-won acceptance that even the most disciplined mind wanders. Picture him on the front lines of battle, his thoughts drifting from military strategy to the fragility of life, then gently guiding himself back, not with self-rebuke, but with the steady patience of a sailor correcting course. The Stoics didn't view lapses in attention as failures. They saw them as necessary signposts on the road to mastery. When your mind drifts during meditation or you catch yourself scrolling mindlessly, you're not falling short, you're gathering data for your next adjustment. Modern neuroscience confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies on neuroplasticity reveal that the brain learns focus not through flawless performance, but through cycles of wandering and returning. Each time you notice distraction and consciously redirect your attention, you're strengthening neural pathways more effectively than if you'd never lost focus at all. It's like building muscle. The value lies in the recovery after the strain, not in avoiding the effort entirely. Epictetus, who transformed his enslavement into philosophical freedom, framed this beautifully. No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. Your ability to focus is that ripening fig, requiring seasons of imperfect growth. Consider how we typically respond to distraction. You're reading a book when suddenly you're 5 pages in with no memory of the content, the standard reaction. Frustration, self-criticism, maybe even abandoning the effort entirely. Now imagine applying the Stoic alternative. Observe the lapse with detached curiosity. Ah, my mind traveled again. Then simply return to the text. No drama, no judgment, just the quiet repetition of choice. This subtle shift transforms the entire practice. French philosopher Simone Weil, influenced by Stoic thought, described attention as suspending thought, leaving it detached, empty, ready to receive. That emptiness isn't failure, it's the necessary reset before deeper absorption. The places where we judge our focus most harshly often reveal our deepest values. A parent beating themselves up for checking emails during storytime exposes how deeply they cherish connection. A writer agonizing over social media distractions betrays their commitment to craft. These perceived failures aren't enemies, they're compasses pointing toward what matters most. Seneca counseled his friend Lucilius to embrace this paradox. You must set your hands to tasks which you can finish or at least hope to finish, and avoid those which get bigger as you proceed and don't cease where you had intended. Perfection in focus is that endless task. Progress is the attainable daily victory. Practical application starts with reframing your inner dialogue. Next time you catch your attention fracturing, replace "I'm terrible at this" with "I'm becoming aware of my patterns." Track your lapses not as demerits but as discoveries. Maybe you consistently lose focus when tired, or certain environments scatter your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius modeled this non-judgmental observation in his meditations, noting his shortcomings with clinical detachment. Today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Your distractions live in that same permeable space, not fixed floors, but passing clouds in your mental sky. A cultural obsession with flawless productivity makes this especially challenging. We admire the myth of the genius who works uninterrupted for hours, forgetting that even Beethoven left drafts littered with corrections, and Darwin's notebooks show years of meandering thoughts before breakthroughs. Historical accounts reveal Marcus himself struggled with attention. His journals are filled with reminders to wake up from mental autopilot. What made him remarkable wasn't perfect focus, but his relentless return to intention. Like a gardener pulling weeds knowing they'll regrow, he understood presence as cyclical labor, not permanent achievement. Try this tonight. Review your day not for how often you drifted, but for how quickly you noticed. Celebrate the moments you caught yourself distracted as proof your awareness is sharpening. Keep a tally if it helps, not of failures, but of successful course corrections. Over time, you'll notice something paradoxical. The more accepting you become of lapses, the fewer occur. Just as straining to sleep guarantees insomnia, clutching too tightly at focus ensures its escape. The Stoics called this the law of reversed effort. Sometimes progress comes not from pushing harder, but from relaxing into the process. In our age of quantified productivity, tracked screen time, measured work output, optimized habits, this Stoic approach offers liberation. Your worth isn't measured in unbroken concentration any more than a river's value lies in never bending around rocks. The wanderings are part of the journey, the resumptions are the practice, and the gentle return to presence again and again is where the real transformation happens. As Marcus wrote on one of his most exhausted nights, you don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Even 2,000 years later, his words remain the perfect antidote to our perfectionism. Not a demand to focus better, but permission to begin again. Epictetus, the philosopher who found freedom while still in chains, would likely view our modern social media feeds with both curiosity and concern. Imagine him scrolling through your Instagram or X feed. What would he say about the endless pursuit of likes, the carefully curated highlight reels, the simmering envy triggered by others' vacation photos? His teachings cut straight to the heart of the matter. If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Don't wish to seem knowledgeable. That's the starting point for a Stoic social media audit, recognizing how much of our online behavior is driven not by genuine connection or growth, but by the hunger for external validation that Epictetus warned against 2,000 years ago. Begin with this uncomfortable but liberating question. Does your social media use align with virtue, with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline? Or has it become what Seneca called the busy idleness, a filling hours with activity that leaves the soul emptier than before? Take a week to observe your habits like a Stoic scientist. Notice when you reach for your phone. Is it from purposeful intent or nervous habit? Track your emotional fingerprints after scrolling. Does Twitter leave you energized or agitated? Does LinkedIn inspire professional growth or stoke comparison? The goal isn't to judge, but to gather data with the detachment Marcus Aurelius practiced when he wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." Now apply Epictetus' litmus test for external validation. If someone turned your body over to just any person who happened to meet you, you'd be furious. Yet you turn your mind over to just anyone who happens to criticize you, so they may abuse it. Every time you post and anxiously check for reactions, every time you mute your true thoughts to avoid controversy, you're handing strangers the keys to your inner citadel. Start reclaiming that territory. Before posting, ask Stoic questions. Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind? If the internet vanished tomorrow, would this still feel worth saying? Curating your feed becomes an exercise in Stoic discernment. Follow accounts that pass the virtue test, those that educate rather than inflame, that share wisdom rather than gossip, that spark contemplation over reaction. Prune mercilessly as Cotto pruned distractions from his life. That influencer peddling impossible lifestyles, unfollow. The news account that thrives on outrage. Mute the friend whose posts always leave you drained. Restrict. This isn't avoidance, it's the discipline of assent in action, choosing which impressions deserve entry into your mental ecosystem. Set usage limits with the precision of a Roman architect designing aqueducts, deliberate channels for necessary flow, not uncontrolled floods. Use app timers not as restraints but as philosophical reminders. Am I using this tool or is it using me? Designate tech-free zones modeled after Seneca's retreats into study. Perhaps no phones during meals or screens banned from the bedroom like modern Stoic temples of rest. Track not just minutes spent but quality of attention given. 15 minutes of deeply reading a friend's heartfelt post may nourish you more than 2 hours of mindless scrolling. The ultimate test comes when you identify your emotional triggers, those posts that hijack your peace like barbarians at the gate. Maybe it's political debates that spike your blood pressure, or envy-tinted travel photos that make your daily life feel dull. Here's where Stoic wisdom shines brightest. These triggers aren't flaws to eradicate, but teachers revealing where your attachments lie. When a post irritates you, hear Epictetus whisper. It's not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. That colleague's humble brag about their promotion isn't causing your discomfort. Your own unmet ambitions are. Use these moments as opportunities to practice indifference to externals, not by suppressing emotion, but by examining it with Stoic curiosity. Try this experiment for 1 week. Log off all social platforms except messaging to preserve real connections. Notice what fills the void, perhaps reading actual books, taking walks without documenting them, having conversations that don't culminate in "we should post this." You'll likely discover what the Stoics knew. Most online engagement is neither truly social nor genuinely media. It's performance art for an audience of near strangers. As Seneca advised regarding superficial friendships, associate with those who will improve you, welcome those you can improve. The process is mutual. If an account doesn't meet that standard, it fails the Stoic audit. The goal isn't ascetic rejection of technology, but the cultivation of what Musonius Rufus called the art of living well. Your ideal social media use might include sharing Stoic insights to help others, joining niche communities that spark growth, or maintaining ties with distant loved ones. What matters is that each click, each scroll, each post passes the twin tests of intentionality and virtue, because in the end, your attention is the most precious currency you own, and every time you spend it online, you're making a philosophical statement about what deserves a piece of your life. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who turned exile into a classroom, had surprising advice for those struggling with focus. How can anyone expect to command others when they cannot command their own sleep? This wasn't just about physical rest, it was about the foundational discipline that makes presence possible. Imagine two versions of yourself, one who spent the night scrolling through fragmented content, jumping between notifications and half-read articles, waking with a mind like a cluttered desk. The other who followed the Stoic sleep rituals unplugged, reflective, rising with the dawn like the Roman farmers who inspired Musonius. Which version do you think would navigate the day with unshakable focus? The quality of your attention doesn't begin when you open your eyes. It's cultivated in the silent hours before. Ancient Stoics didn't have the science of circadian rhythms, but they understood something profound about the relationship between rest and focus. Musonius taught that true discipline isn't just about what you do while awake. It's about how you prepare your mind during the vulnerable threshold of sleep. His students followed what we'd now call sleep hygiene, but with a philosophical twist. Nighttime wasn't just for recharging the body, but for aligning the soul. They'd end each day with purposeful journaling, not just logging events, but examining them through Stoic lenses. Where did my attention falter today? What impressions did I assent to too quickly? This nightly audit served two functions. It processed the day's mental clutter so it wouldn't haunt their sleep, and it primed their focus for the morning ahead. Modern studies confirm this practice reduces nighttime cognitive arousal, the racing thoughts that sabotage deep sleep, while improving next-day concentration by up to 30%. Here's how to adapt this tonight. 90 minutes before bed, perform the Stoic tech sunset. Not just turning off screens, but consciously transitioning from consumption to creation. The shift Musonius called from passive receiver to active examiner. Trade scrolling for a pen and paper. Write one observation where you lost focus today, one moment you reclaimed it, and one intention for tomorrow's attention. Keep it brief but potent, like Marcus Aurelius' journal entries that rarely exceeded a paragraph. Then, engage in what the Stoics called the backward glance, reviewing your day in reverse from bedtime to morning. This isn't rumination, it's strategic reflection designed to untangle mental knots before sleep can weave them tighter. The second pillar, fixed wake times, might sound rigid, but the Stoics framed it as liberation. Musonius woke his students at the same pre-dawn hour regardless of season, not out of harshness, but to align with nature's rhythms. He observed that the mind's focus follows the body's clock, what we now call the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that irregular sleep fractures attention like a cracked mirror. Modern chronobiology proves he was right. Consistent wake times stabilize cortisol rhythms, optimizing both deep sleep and daytime alertness. But here's the Stoic nuance missed by most sleep hacks. The discipline of rising early wasn't about productivity. It was about claiming quiet hours for philosophy before the world's demands could intrude. Your version might mean guarding the first hour after waking for focused work before checking messages, or simply sipping tea while watching the sunrise, training your mind to meet the day with intention rather than reaction. Now consider the counterintuitive link between sleep depth and mental clarity. The Stoics noticed long before sleep trackers that restless nights led to scattered days. Musonius taught his students to prepare for sleep as seriously as generals prepared for battle, because tomorrow's focus depended on tonight's rest. He banned late-night debates and heavy meals not just for digestion's sake, but because they left the mind as unsettled as a stormy sea come morning. Modern research reveals why, during deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system flushes out the day's neurotoxic waste, including beta-amyloid proteins that impair focus. Skimp on sleep and you're literally trying to think through mental sludge. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, ask Musonius' defining question: what discipline tonight will make tomorrow's focus effortless? Maybe it's charging your phone outside the bedroom, not as punishment, but as sacred space protection. Perhaps it's reading philosophy instead of news, letting timeless wisdom rather than temporal chaos be the last imprint on your mind. Or it could be as simple as lying still for 5 minutes upon waking, mentally rehearsing how you'll meet distractions before they meet you. Because the ultimate Stoic sleep secret isn't about hours logged. It's about awakening each morning not just rested but ready, with a mind as clear and purposeful as the first light of dawn. Ever feel that compulsive itch to check your phone the second a notification pings, or scramble to open social media when boredom strikes? The ancient Stoics faced different distractions, chariot races instead of Twitter threads, but their solution to impulsive reactions holds surprising power today. Enter the 2-minute rule with a Stoic twist. When any distraction arises, create a deliberate pause, not to resist the urge, but to examine it with the disciplined awareness Epictetus called the pause of assent. Here's how it works in practice. That breaking news alert flashes on your screen. Instead of immediately clicking, you stop, not for avoidance, but for examination. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, one full Stoic breath cycle. Then ask Epictetus's question: is this essential to my life's purpose or just a passing impression? Those 2 minutes transform the interaction from reflex to choice. What makes this approach uniquely Stoic is its embrace of delay as wisdom rather than deprivation. Modern productivity hacks often frame willpower as white-knuckled resistance. Don't check your phone. But Marcus Aurelius modeled something subtler in his Meditations. Leave your thirst undisturbed, and it will eventually leave you undisturbed. By inserting that buffer between impulse and action, you're not fighting distraction, you're letting it reveal its true nature. Most cravings, when held at arm's length for just 2 minutes, start to wilt like flowers cut from their roots. That urgent email, after 2 minutes of breathing, you realize it can wait. The gossip site beckoning, the pause exposes it as mental junk food. This practice shines brightest when applied to digital temptations. Picture this: your hand twitches toward your phone during a lull in conversation. Instead of surrendering, you deploy the 2-minute rule, palms flat on the table, one deep breath cycle. In that space, you might notice the awkwardness you're trying to escape, or the beauty of your companion's unguarded expression. The Stoics called this prosoche, a vigilant attention to the present moment. Your phone hasn't moved, but your relationship to it has. Social media algorithms bank on immediate dopamine hits, but 2 minutes of breathing recalibrates your nervous system from reactive to reflective. The magic lies in the rule's dual nature. It's not just about stopping distractions, it's about discovering what drives them. Those 2 minutes become a diagnostic tool. Are you reaching for news out of genuine curiosity or anxiety? Scrolling from inspiration or emptiness, Seneca spotted this centuries ago. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. When you pause before clicking, you often find the anticipated reward pales next to the cost of fractured attention. One writer I know keeps a post-it on her laptop with Marcus Aurelius's reminder. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? Over time, her 2-minute pauses revealed most urgent clicks were just nervous habits masquerading as needs. Adapt this today with tiny experiments. Next time your phone buzzes, watch it like an anthropologist observing some fascinating cultural ritual: the glow of the screen, the tension in your fingers, the narrative your mind spins about what you're missing. Count slowly to 120 while practicing the Stoic breath. You'll notice something peculiar. The world doesn't end when you delay response. Emails still get answered, news still unfolds, and you reclaim something priceless: agency over your attention. The 2-minute rule isn't a barrier between you and life. It's the bridge from reacting to choosing, one conscious breath at a time. Consider how differently we'd navigate digital spaces if everyone practiced this micro-discipline. Political outrage would lose its viral edge as people examined their emotional impulses. Productivity wouldn't mean responding instantly, but responding thoughtfully. Even trivial habits, like snapping photos of meals instead of savoring them, would face the gentle interrogation of those 120 seconds. Epictetus offered the perfect mantra for these moments. First, say to yourself what kind of person you want to be, then do what you have to do. The 2-minute pause is where that intention meets action, where scattered attention remembers its true north. Ultimately, this practice transforms distraction from enemy to ally. Each craving becomes an opportunity to strengthen what the Stoics called hegemonikon, the governing faculty of the mind. That colleague interrupting your flow, 2 minutes to practice patience. The YouTube rabbit hole calling, 120 seconds to reaffirm priorities. Like a blacksmith tempering steel, each small delay forges greater mastery over your focus. And here's the beautiful paradox the Stoics discovered. The more you pause to examine distractions, the fewer you find pulling at you. Because presence isn't the absence of diversion, it's the quiet understanding that you get to choose where your attention goes. Seneca didn't just write his philosophical letters for personal reflection. He sent them to his friend Lucilius, creating an unbroken chain of accountability that spanned years. There's a reason this practice survived 2 millennia. Declaring your intentions to someone else forces clarity in a way private journaling never could. Picture standing before a trusted ally and stating, "By week's end, I will have spent 10 hours in deep work without digital distractions." Suddenly, your focus goals aren't just abstract ideals, they're promises woven into the fabric of a relationship. The Stoics understood what modern psychology confirms. We're far more likely to follow through when someone else is watching. It's why gym buddies triple workout consistency and why mastermind groups outperform solo entrepreneurs. That subtle pressure isn't oppression, it's the friction that sharpens discipline. Now imagine applying this to your focus struggles. Who could serve as your modern-day Lucilius? A colleague where you exchange daily intention emails, a friend who receives screenshots of your app usage stats. Even social media can become a Stoic tool if used deliberately. Posting your weekly focus goals in a niche community transforms likes into accountability markers. The key lies in specificity. Don't just tell your partner, "I'll be more present." Follow Seneca's model. "Tonight during dinner, my phone will remain in another room, and I'll ask you 3 questions about your day before sharing about mine." Concrete stakes change everything. One writer I know emails her accountability partner every Sunday with 3 focus targets for the week, then pays $5 to a charity she dislikes for each missed goal. The financial penalty matters less than the act of confessing shortcomings to someone whose opinion she values. Communities take this further by creating what the Stoics called sympatheia, a shared striving toward virtue. Online forums like the Stoic subreddit or focused Discord channels offer digital agoras where members post daily progress. There's profound power in typing. Today I resisted checking news during work blocks, to strangers who respond with virtual Spartan helmets. These platforms work best when they emphasize growth over guilt. The ancient Stoa was never about shaming lapses, but about collective course correction. Modern equivalents thrive when members ask, "What distracted you today?" rather than, "Did you fail again?" But public commitment requires a counterbalance, what Seneca called the wisdom of selective exposure. Not every opinion deserves weight. Sharing your focus goals with a perpetually skeptical coworker might backfire, while confiding in a fellow philosophy enthusiast could ignite mutual progress. The Stoics were ruthlessly intentional about their circles. Epictetus warned his students, "If your companion is dirty, you'll get dirty too, even if you're clean." Translation: choose accountability partners whose own habits inspire rather than undermine your aims. That might mean joining a mastermind group of digital minimalists or starting a two-person book club on attention literature. Quality trumps quantity. One committed ally outperforms a dozen lukewarm cheerleaders. For those wary of social accountability, there's a quieter Stoic alternative: future self-reckoning. Seneca would often write letters imagining his older self judging current choices. Try drafting an email to your future self using services like FutureMe.org, detailing the focus habits you pledge to cultivate. When it arrives months later, you'll face unflinching evidence of growth or stagnation. Marcus Aurelius took this further by addressing his journal entries to his better nature, creating an internal dialogue that held him accountable even in solitude. Your version might involve weekly voice memos where you interview yourself about distractions conquered and focus sustained. The act of verbalizing progress, even just to your own ears, makes abstract intentions tangible. The ultimate accountability hack merges ancient wisdom with modern tech. Apps like Stick let you stake money on focus goals while appointing referees, a digital incarnation of Seneca's epistolary contracts. But here's the Stoic twist these tools often miss. The real value isn't in punishment for failure, but in the heightened awareness that comes from tracking. Simply knowing you'll have to report your screen time to someone else alters behavior before the reckoning arrives. It's the principle Cotto embodied when he wore simple tunics to remind himself of frugality, not because anyone would chastise him for luxury, but because visibility bred consistency. So as you ponder accountability, ask not just who will hold me responsible, but what version of myself do I want them to see? That shift transforms oversight from oppressive to aspirational. The right partner becomes a mirror reflecting your highest potential, not a warden enforcing rules. And in that reflection, you might discover what Seneca and Lucilius knew: that shared commitment to growth isn't a burden, but one of life's rare and beautiful privileges. Seneca once warned his friend Lucilius about a danger far more insidious than any physical threat: the endless flood of information that leaves us always learning, yet never coming to knowledge. Imagine standing under a waterfall with a cup, trying to catch specific drops while the deluge overwhelms you. That's modern media consumption, a torrent of headlines, hot takes, and algorithmically amplified outrage that leaves our mental cups overflowing yet strangely empty. The Stoic antidote: apply the same discipline to your information diet that you would to a feast, savoring select morsels rather than gorging on everything within reach. Start with Seneca's litmus test: does this knowledge nourish or merely occupy me? The ancient philosopher didn't have Twitter trends or breaking news alerts, but his distinction between wisdom and trivia remains razor sharp. Most of what we consume falls into three categories: urgent but unimportant celebrity scandals, viral debates, important but not urgent books on philosophy, documentaries on human nature, and the rare intersection that deserves our full attention. The Stoics would argue we've become so fixated on the first category that we've starved ourselves of the second. Here's how to conduct a Stoic media audit. For 1 week, track every informational bite, not just time spent, but emotional fingerprints. That 20-minute news scroll leaving you agitated, note it in red. The long-form article that expanded your perspective, highlight it green. The podcast that filled commute time with genuine insight rather than background noise. Mark it blue. By week's end, patterns emerge like a nutritional label for your mind: too much mental junk food, not enough sustenance. One executive discovered his informational cholesterol was sky high, doom scrolling before bed, talk radio fueling road rage, LinkedIn comparisons triggering inadequacy. His pruning shears came out swiftly, unfollowed 15 news accounts, muted 3 perpetually outraged acquaintances, replaced morning headlines with meditations passages. Pruning isn't deprivation, it's curation. The Stoics didn't reject all external information, they filtered it through virtue's sieve. Apply Epictetus's discipline of assent. Before subscribing to a newsletter or following a new account, ask, will this help me live with wisdom and courage? That financial analyst tweeting market panic every hour, reject assent. The historian threading forgotten lessons from antiquity, grant entry. Your attention is prime real estate. Would you let billboards dominate your property's best views? The most radical pruning happens at the roots. Notice how certain platforms inherently fragment attention: endless scrolls, autoplay, notifications designed to trigger dopamine spikes. These aren't neutral tools, they're slot machines disguised as information channels. The Stoic approach: treat them like Roman banquets where overindulgence meant disgrace. One journalist I know transformed her relationship with news by imposing Seneca's 3-vessel rule: morning, noon, and evening checks from curated sources only, no more than 15 minutes each. Within weeks, she reported an unexpected clarity. I stopped confusing awareness of crises with ability to address them. This philosophy extends beyond digital spaces. Consider conversation as media: the water-cooler gossip, the complaint marathons with colleagues. Musonius Rufus taught that speech should pass 3 gates. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Apply this to your auditory diet. That coworker who turns every lunch into a rant session. Limit exposure like sugary drinks. The friend who discusses books with depth. Prioritize those exchanges like whole foods. Even music and podcasts deserve scrutiny. Are you filling silence because you fear being alone with your thoughts? The ultimate test comes when reintroducing pruned elements. After her media fast, a teacher found she could read political news without emotional whiplash by applying Marcus Aurelius's question: what's the virtuous response here? Instead of absorbing outrage, she began annotating articles with action steps, donating to relevant causes, contacting representatives, or simply practicing empathy. Information became raw material for virtue rather than viral fuel for anxiety. What makes this approach uniquely Stoic is its recognition that every input shapes character. You wouldn't train for a marathon on fast food. Why build wisdom on clickbait? The clutter we remove creates space for what Epictetus called the wealth of the soul: deep reading, meaningful dialogue, uninterrupted thought. And in that space, something remarkable happens. We stop drowning in the waterfall and begin drinking deeply from well-chosen springs. Marcus Aurelius ended his days not with mindless scrolling, but with deliberate reflection, a practice so powerful it transformed the chaos of ruling an empire into the clarity of his meditations. Picture this: the emperor sets down his sword and scepter, picks up a simple wax tablet, and examines his day with the same precision a jeweler uses to inspect diamonds. Where did his attention shine brightest? Where did it fracture like flawed stone? This nightly ritual wasn't self-criticism, it was strategic refinement. The Stoics called it anakrisis, a judicial review of the mind's movements. In our age of endless notifications, this practice becomes even more vital. Your evening review isn't just about tracking productivity. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your attention, one examined day at a time. Start with the Stoic triage. Take 5 minutes before sleep to ask 3 questions borrowed from Marcus' journal. Where did I guard my focus like a sacred flame today? Where did I let it scatter like leaves in wind? What one adjustment would make tomorrow's attention sturdier? Be ruthlessly specific. Not just got distracted at work, but spent 20 minutes reacting to emails when deep writing was my priority. This precision matters. It transforms vague resolutions into actionable insights. One entrepreneur discovered through these reviews that her focus lapses always followed late morning coffee breaks. The solution: moving creative work to pre-break hours and saving administrative tasks for post-caffeine energy dips. Small adjustments with seismic impact. The brilliance of the Stoic evening review lies in its balance. Every lapse gets paired with gratitude for a win, creating momentum rather than guilt. Maybe you resisted checking your phone during your child's soccer game win, but caved to social media during a creative block lapse. The format mirrors Marcus' own journals, unflinching yet compassionate. He'd note shortcomings like, "Today I allowed Hadrian's complaints to disturb my peace," then immediately follow with, "But I did not return his bitterness." This dual tracking does something remarkable. It trains your brain to spot patterns without self-flagellation. Modern psychology confirms this approach, combining what researchers call implementation intentions, specific if-then plans with positive reinforcement builds lasting habit change. Here's how to structure your review like a Stoic scribe. Divide a notebook into 3 columns: observations, what happened; lessons, why it mattered; and adjustments, how to proceed. Under observations, jot concrete moments, focused intensely during client call from 10 to 11, or scrolled news for 30 minutes when anxious about project. The lessons column extracts meaning. Deep work flows when I silence notifications, or I use distractions to avoid discomfort. Then craft adjustments with military precision. Tomorrow, I'll block 9 to 11 a.m. for uninterrupted work. Or, when anxiety arises, I'll take 3 breaths before reaching for my phone. This isn't journaling, it's engineering your attention landscape. The final touch transforms reflection into wisdom. The Stoic gratitude twist: end each review by identifying one distraction that unexpectedly served you. That coworker who interrupted your flow with a random question. They reminded you that human connection matters more than perfect productivity. The traffic jam that made you late. It gifted 10 minutes of unexpected stillness. Epictetus taught that even irritations carry hidden benefits, we just need the perspective to spot them. This practice doesn't justify laziness. It reveals how life's interruptions often redirect us toward what truly merits focus. What makes this nightly ritual so transformative is its compounding effect. At first, you're simply cataloging wins and losses. After a week, patterns emerge like constellations. Perhaps your focus dips when hungry, or certain people consistently pull you from deep work. By month's end, you're not just observing behaviors, you're anticipating them. That's when the magic happens. You begin catching distractions before they catch you. Like Marcus preparing each morning to face meddling people without being disturbed, you develop what athletes call game sense, the ability to read the field of your attention before plays unfold. So tonight, as you power down your devices, leave space for this ancient practice. You need no imperial parchment, just a few inches of paper and the courage to examine your day without flinching. Record one victory, one lapse, and one precise adjustment. Then close with gratitude for the unexpected teacher hidden in today's chaos. Over time, these nightly dialogues with yourself will do more than improve focus. They'll reshape how you move through the world, turning scattered reactions into chosen responses. And isn't that the essence of presence? Not perfection, but the willingness to look honestly at each day, learn from its gifts and stumbles, then meet tomorrow's dawn with clearer eyes. The journey toward presence in a distracted world isn't about achieving some unshakable Zen state. It's about building a toolkit, one Stoic technique at a time. Think of it like assembling a mental Swiss Army knife. The dichotomy of control helps you separate what deserves your attention from what doesn't. Journaling turns reflection into a daily sharpening stone for your focus. Monotasking trains your mind to dive deep instead of skimming the surface. These aren't just strategies, they're disciplines, each one a thread in the fabric of a more intentional life. And here's the liberating truth: you don't have to master them all at once. Even Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who penned his meditations amid wars and plagues, wrote reminders to himself about losing focus. His words still resonate today. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Not total power, not perfect power, but enough to choose where you place your attention, moment by moment. Presence is a practice, not a destination. There will be days when the dichotomy of control feels like second nature. You'll breeze past notifications and interruptions like a stoic ninja. Other days, you'll catch yourself knee-deep in a social media rabbit hole, wondering how you got there. That's not failure, it's part of the training. Imagine a musician practicing scales. The missed notes aren't setbacks, they're information, guiding the next repetition. Your attention works the same way. Every time you notice your mind wandering and gently guide it back, you're not starting over. You're strengthening the neural pathways that make focus easier next time. So here's your invitation. This week, pick just one technique from the Stoic toolkit and wear it in like a new pair of shoes. Maybe it's the 2-minute rule, pausing before reacting to distractions. Or perhaps it's the evening journaling ritual, untangling the day's mental knots before sleep. Even something as simple as leaving your phone in another room during meals counts as a victory. The key is consistency, not complexity, and when you stumble, because you will remember Seneca's wisdom. Progress is not accomplished in one stage. What matters is the return, not the lapse. Now it's your turn. Share in the comments, which technique will you test drive this week? What distractions are you reclaiming your attention from? Your insights might spark someone else's breakthrough. Because while Stoicism began with a few thinkers in ancient Greece and Rome, its real power unfolds in the lives of people like you, right here, right now. The world will keep spinning, notifications will keep pinging, but you've got tools no algorithm can override. The rest is practice, as Marcus would say, begin at once. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down now. The perfect moment to reclaim your focus doesn't exist. There's only this moment waiting for you to meet it fully. So take a breath, pick your starting point, and remember, every great journey begins with a single